Well, good to Sunrise Daily today. I am Chamberlain Osong. What the weather is turning out to be here in Abuja, guys.
Well, good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde here in Lagos. I don't know about you, Chamberlain, but the sky doesn't look misty and cloudy here. It's actually quite nice, quite a nice weather. Well, maybe as at the time I left home, I do that quite early. But I don't know if our guest this morning has a contrary view. He joins us for the papers that's talking about Dr. Marcel Mbamalu, who is publisher at Prime Business Africa. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ayo. Good to be here. Well, it was a smooth ride to this place.
Okay.
Not easy waking up early to be here, but what can we do?
Hey, that's what you've always done all your life. But, Chamberlain was talking about the weather. What's the weather like on your way here?
I think very smooth, like I said.
See?
Yeah, very smooth.
It's good weather here in Lagos.
Chamberlain is on his own.
Well, let's start with the Guardian newspaper this morning. Of course, in the middle of all of the election things, the Guardian's attention on a Monday morning is a little different. But what does the Guardian newspaper show interest in? First, over 10 million Nigerians have diabetes, kills more than COVID-19 and cancer. That's shocking.
Yeah.
But look at the riders. Condition, major cause of blindness, kidney failure, heart attacks, stroke, lower limb amputations, says Emson. Find out the details of that. Fasamade, there are only 150 endocrinologists to over 220 million Nigerians. Physical exercise restores brain insulin sensitivity, may protect against type 2 diabetes. And stakeholders seek clarity on implementation of sugar tax. All of this talking about diabetes.
Yeah. Well, I think, thank you, Ayo. I think the issue of diabetes, it's not really, it could even be, I don't know where this is coming from, but actually you could feel it, that it's actually much, it could be even more than that, because you see, just look at the media, just try to look out, you see, even young people, actually being hospitalized for kidney issues. You could remember, I think still Corinne, Mado's daughter, how old is she? And whatever. But I think much more than looking at the numbers, we should look at what actually is triggering, this surge in the number of cases. I think we have to look at lifestyle. Lifestyle is is an issue. I'm not a medical doctor, but I know that because I pay attention to such issues. I think the kind of medications we take, the kind of food we eat, the kind of lifestyles that we indulge in, and all of those, we need to really, I think it can help. So we can only start talking about remedies and how we can really control these surging numbers. I think something has to be done. If at the age of 30 or 25 or 30, and you have someone having diabetes, those days it used to be okay for people of the aged and all of those, but you see that something is wrong.
It will seem like some of these data are shifting, I said jokingly to a friend sometime not too far away that back in time when I was growing up, white beards signified old age. But young people seem to be having it. It's like all of these things seem to be shifting,
Yeah, I think it took me okay.
Go on, go ahead.
Yeah, it took me I got almost 30 before I could have and it was like I dreamed of it. I was just like going to, but it might shock you. Start looking for remedies. How can I get hairs? How can I get some? How can I get bread? So
and here you are now.
And people will tell you, okay, get whiskey, rub some whiskey there, and it will grow. But we tried all those. But today is different.
But there's another, perhaps even more concerning information. The second of the writers says there are only 150 endocrinologists to over 220 million Nigerians. Now, the headline says more than 10 million Nigerians have died. Well, beg your pardon. More than 10 million Nigerians have diabetes, and only 150 people available to treat them all over the nation.
Yeah.
That's concerning.
Yeah, these are statistics that you have, the figures that you have, official numbers. Of course, you know that
Could be more.
some people don't, much more. I'm just giving you an idea. I painted a picture of that. But beyond that, what you look at is talking about the number of healthcare experts, as against the number of patients. I think it's not just within that sphere alone. You have that issue cutting across every aspect of our life in Nigeria. People are jackpying, and all of the people are just living, professionals are living, medical doctors are living, and all of those. I think for us to even address that, not just not having enough medical doctors, enough experts in that area. It's about keeping those you have, even keeping them to stay here in the economy and be able to, So we have a whole lot of problem. I think it's a holistic challenge that we have.
Certainly. On the lower part of the page, and it's marked in red, lower left part of the page, petrol scarcity. Marketers accused Nimasa MPA of dollarizing transactions. Certainly not something that we want to hear, but that's our reality.
Yeah. What is I think the last time I came here, I talked about Naira being a store of, the problem, the challenge the Naira has as a store of value, because every currency has the most important function of every currency is being a store of value. And as far as you use it for exchange for goods and services. So Naira is fast. I think is gaining in the last few days, a bit in the last few days, but it lost it, I think, over the weekend again. Naira has that challenge of not retaining that function as a store of value. That's function that it performs. So people don't really want to store that. But when you have that at official level, why you say people at official level, government at official level, because NEMASA is a government agency.
Exactly.
So if you have it, then it's really, really pathetic. It's a story that we don't like to hear, because they should be bring a solution and not being part of the problem.
Okay, well, more of that you'll find on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Chamberlain.
All right, indeed. So let's take a look at the next paper here, which is the Daily Times. Now, these are the people who are trying to address some of those concerns that you have raised. So we'll be looking to see what kind of plans do they have for the economy and different sectors, because we just had to get it right. If you don't get the right persons leading, there may be a challenge. So look at Daily Times and the lead story: PDP, APC in verbal war over Tinubu's eligibility to contest Nigeria's presidency. The first of the writer there says, ex-Lagos governor ineligible, should step down, says opposition party. Tinubu will not step down, will retire Atiku to Dubai in 2023. That is ascribed to the APC. And of course, you might have heard a thing or two about this. What do you make of this big fight between these parties?
I think the politicians are actually taking us for the ride. I'm not thrilled at all by that. I think somebody asked this question yesterday, and my response was, let the politicians just leave us the electorate to just choose. Let them come and debate. Let them appear in debates. Let them come out, tell us what they are. We already seen them. We know you. We know all of them. So we are seeing. I mean, it's good they're exposing themselves. It's good they are talking and helping the electorate to actually make their decision. So the best thing, what I will say is that not on the pages of the newspaper, let them come out each time there is a debate, there is a town hall. Let them come out, let them tell us, let them defend themselves, let them tell us their manifesto, what they have to offer. Because this is not, I don't think Nigerians are playing this time around. So their verbal exchange notwithstanding, the most important thing they should do is to be available each time there is a call for debate. Let them come out and talk to Nigerians, let them engage us, and then we'll, hold them to task and tell them what we want, hear them say what they will do, and then we'll make our decision. Ultimately, I believe that this will likely be one of the most transparent, I mean, if they allow it to be. So I think it's good. It's happened. That's my assessment of the whole thing. It's good that they are exposing their underbellies.
Well, you know,
for us.
The thing about that too is that these parties will do what they have to do. So just as you may have insinuated, it's up to the political party, it's up to the electorate to actually decide what they make of it all. But look at what is at the bottom strip of Daily Times as well. It's got to do with some activities in the House of Representatives. House of Reps queries 63 MDAs over 2 trillion naira unauthorized spending. And the question of unauthorized spending on budgeted funds that, you know, these MDAs spend, how realistic do you think the National Assembly has been in terms of trying to stamp it out? Because this is not the first time that you see this kind of narrative.
Well, you wouldn't like my opinion on that, because
I'm not a member, so...
Okay, fine, but I think it's all about pot calling kettle black and vice versa. You know, I think there's a whole lot, but it makes it becomes very interesting when you look at the fact that the country is in debt, serious debt. We have borrowed so much. And then we're having this kind of what we call unofficial spending and expenditures. You know, it calls for concern. I'm concerned. I've always been when it comes to some fiscal actions, fiscal policies and their implementation so far in the last few years. I think I'm concerned. So it's good they are calling them out. I mean, our lawmakers are calling MDAs out, MDAs who spent without outside the budget, you know. But the most important thing is this. I think that there's need for a holistic look at let's see whether the new government comes up and begins to... The problem we have is that most times we do all these things in retrospect, in arrears. And if we can hold those who are in power, hold them to account while they are still in government, it means that the system is working, it means that the institutions are working. So that's the point. But right now, I think it's just noise.
That's Daily Time this morning.
Well, take a look at this Nigerian newspaper on its front page. Still in the National Assembly, it would seem. National Assembly renovation, Senate seeks variation of 30 billion naira contract sum. And the writer says, money not enough to complete project as contractors blame Naira fall for slow pace of work.
Election is coming, and anything they talk about, contract now, awarding of contract or whatever, variation and all of this, I think I look at it, because I look at it with some kind of reservation, because right now I don't think any real governance is taking place. Every political party, whether both the one in power, the ones that want to take power, everybody's talking about 2023. You know, so when I see numbers and monies to be spent right now on this or that, I actually raise eyebrows, because I know that the serious in the mindset of politicians right now, whether they're in power or not, is how to win elections in 2023. So we should follow the money. Once these numbers come up, we should pay attention, close attention. We should see, if you asked me, except projects that are ongoing, the projects that are whatever, but no new project. Of course, this is not a new project. They're just asking for variation and all of those. I think these have to wait until, I'm not saying they should wait, but it looks like they will have to wait until after 2023 elections, because I don't really think we should be talking about new monies. Right now, we should be focusing on...
But it's, just as you said, it's not a new contract. So, yeah. I mean, how does the election come into this?
Okay, what I'm saying, you just have to be careful. I'm just saying we should be careful. We need to be careful about... well, I'm not judging, I'm not prejudging, but I say that, of course, they are right in saying, asking for variation, because... Of course, we talked about value of Naira, we talk about money, we talk about foreign exchange, naira losing value. So it's not going to, of course, they're paid in naira. So if they're paid in naira, what naira could buy yesterday, it's not what it's going to buy today. So, but my point is that we also have to be very careful about new expenditures right now without proper. Just a few minutes ago, we talked about extra budgetary expenditures and all of those. So before we do all of those, they are right in asking for it. It should be done, but it should be done in such a transparent manner so that we are not kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well, look under the pictures on the front page. Tinubu's drug allegation: we shall institute legal action against libelous publications, says the APC. Well, I don't know. There are many ways to look at that particular headline, but the fact that they were published, they were fake, and they were published, puts some kind of question mark on media houses, wouldn't you say?
Fake? Published.
Well, so we shall institute legal action against libelous publications. You remember that, the INEC said this thing that didn't happen, that we are not, interrogating or
yeah, who is actually suing now? Who will sue? Is it INEC that will sue or APC?
That is saying they will institute libelous.
No, if the reference, yes, of course, it's a constitutional right of any individual, any entity, whether political party or an individual, you and I, to go to court if we think that our rights have been infringed upon.
Yeah, my question is about the fact that it would seem like the media houses didn't do
verify them before that, which is actually correct, because that information was wrong. When I got it, I saw that, and I think that we got it at Prime Business Africa, and what I did was just to reach out to INEC, and before INEC even issued that statement, and it was not correct. And in some platforms I belonged, I was the one saying, this is not correct, this is not correct. I verified it is not correct. But beyond that, I think this is INEC's call. INEC has issued a statement, to say this. Although APC is also, I think they have some injuries in that, but I think the primary entity to be talking about suing right now here should be INEC. INEC was quoted out of context. INEC was the one that the media houses said.
Okay. Told them what they didn't say.
Yes, told them that. So I think maybe APC is planning to sue alongside INEC as the primary victim of those reports. But APC has its right to go to court to sue whatever. I don't think media houses who published those wrong, I don't want to say fake, wrong information, it came out to be wrong at last. Even these days, I keep telling my colleagues that there's a thin line between fake and whatever, because something might be real today, and it comes out. The following day, the principal decides to make it fake and refuse to do that exactly, the plan and whatever, and then come out to say it's not. And then 1 month after, he goes back to do that same thing. So what becomes fake now becomes real, true, 1 month after, but it's fake today. So there's a thin line between that. But on the whole, they can go to court, they can sue.
Well, I guess it just
media houses should defend themselves.
Yeah, it just puts the profession.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. That it's the responsibility, the duty of every media house. There's nothing new about that. You could publish things that turn out to be incorrect. Finally, all they need to do professionally is to do your.
But then there are those who will also
say, "I'm sorry, this was wrong."
There are those who will also wonder perhaps that was the intention, just to put it out and apologize later. But just don't respond to that. Chamberlain. Chamberlain, go ahead.
Yeah, Inquirer. Ground rent. Asokoro, Maitama property owners owe 3.1 billion naira. FCTA issues 2,979 demand notice. So these two highbrow areas, I think the FCTA trying to start with those areas to collect these ground rents. And, speaking about these ground rents, do you, first, while you tell us what you think about this one, is it a scenario you see perhaps other states, the relevant authorities also going in strong and trying to demand these rents or tenement rates from wherever they'd like to get it from?
Yeah, Socorro, my time, I didn't hear you correctly. I didn't hear you clearly. Ms. Chamberlain, take that question again, please.
Yeah, in terms of what you think about their strategy, what they want to do now to get this, and probably do you see some other states looking to see how to increase their internally generated revenue by perhaps doing a similar thing?
Yeah, well, IGR is the way to go. I think, yeah, it's nothing wrong in states trying to increase IGR, but IGR should have a human face. That's what I think. Look at what is happening.
How do you mean?
You know, it should have a human face. You know, I don't want to mention states, but you see in a situation where because states want to drive revenue, and then there is multiplicity of taxes, there's multiplicity of fees, you know, you pay these. States are desperate to make money because money is no longer coming, revenue is no longer coming from oil, and so there should be more ingenious ways of creating revenue in states. But I am saying that things are very, very difficult for even, I wonder how many businesses that are making profit right now, surviving in this economy. So it's becoming tighter and tighter for states even to begin to focus on IGR, you know, as it were. So I think it's not a good day for everyone, not a good day for states, not a good day for government, not a good day for Nigerians. It's really, really tough.
All right.
But states, of course, should be more ingenious about IGR.
And speaking about, perhaps they should match that with service delivery as well. So when they get all that, they have to provide the services for residents in those areas as well. And speaking about some tough scenarios, above this lead story, Abuja Light Rail, paucity of funds hits resumption of operation. So they appear to be feeling the pinch as well there. So that is it with the Abuja Inquiry this morning.
Flip to the Nigerian News Direct this morning, and what do you have on its front page? Well, this goes back to the National Assembly Lusim, an authorized budget, 2 trillion naira at stake, as reps seek to probe 63 agencies. I believe that you spoke around this earlier.
That is the same story.
Yeah, but look at the riders. Nati to explain 960 million naira personnel cost in 2022 budget for 43 staff. Yes, you can go ahead and bring out your calculator. 960 million naira for 43 staff. Lawmakers angered over circumventing legislative oversight. Most certainly something. Inflated submissions, extra constitutional expenditure shroud agencies' spending. Buhari's allegations of illegal approvals of budgets in view. I think I would like you to speak to that. The president, while making the budget presentation, pointed out the fact that he was informed that some MDAs draw their money once they get the approval straight from the National Assembly and they go ahead and execute without, going through the proper, channels and all of that. That's definitely something very troubling.
Yeah, and the president himself says that then it means that people should be prosecuted. Yes, exactly. That's corruption. If actually monies are spent without following due process, it means that I don't think we need so much of this media talking about this. And of course, a law is broken, something wrong has happened, and call out the people, just arrest them, prosecute them. And I think it sends a better signal than just complaining and complaining. And it's interesting that, of course, government is actually very upbeat on fighting corruption. I mean, in terms of what comes out from there, what you hear and all of those. So, and when you hear this, you expect, 10 arrested, so person suspended, investigation ongoing, so person invited by the police, EFCC and the rest. These are the things we need to be hearing. Then, if proven to be wrong or vindicated, then you return back to your...
Do you expect that the presidency should have put out a list of those agencies to the appropriate authorities, the EFCC?
That's the point I'm making, that they should be arrested. Of course, before that could happen, that information should have gone quietly. It doesn't have to be in the media. It doesn't have to be... Because for me, if you complain that way, that's a sign of helplessness. It means you are not prepared to do anything about it. So if you really want to do something about it, all you need to do, release that information to the appropriate agencies who would go after the culprits, get them arrested, interrogate them, ask them questions, and Nigerians will see what is happening, the action, and that will serve as deterrent to others. That's what I think. We've had so much since 2015. We've had so much about calling out offenders. Even sometimes we publish names of debtors, name and shame, so many things. I think a lot of drama so far. What we need now is people being in police custody, being charged to courts, not just police custody, being interrogated. Then this information will be coming out from the courts. Nigerians will know that something is going on. So I encourage the presidency to really, go a step further on this by kind of making scapegoats of those who are, doing all of this.
Well, there's this one also right above the nameplate. FG to increase TCN wheeling capacity by 1,000 megawatts. That's ascribed to the minister. Speak to that conundrum. There is that allegation of, okay, we can generate this, but then we say, okay, GenCos don't reduce your production capacity because we do not have capacity to wheel it,
yes,
and all of those things. What do you make of all of it?
Yeah, I think I still say this today because we're just taking, when you have cancer and you are taking Panadol, taking whatever, it doesn't make sense. You have to look for cancer drug, to control cancer. So the problem we are having now is that we are still using old means to address new problems. We don't have any. We privatized the generation arm and the distribution arm, and we think that, and then there's still public control, government control of transmission, and we think we could make whatever with our kind of the kind of infrastructure that we have, the kind of maintenance culture that we have in government and all of those. It's not going to work. Energy, the power sector is critical to economic growth and development. If that's so, there's no way you can privatize generation and distribution and then leave whatever. So I think that government shouldn't have total control of the transmission right now. Government has shown lack of capacity to run anything that is critical, that is very central to our survival. Okay. So I advise that we should be looking at getting capable, not the way we did our discos and GenCos and privatization. No, we have to find better means, better ways of getting right people who have experience, who can run this, who can do that. And then maybe with very, very little government control on transmission, we can find out. But it's not just about what you generate. Whatever you generate, you can't wheel. And what you want to wheel, you can't wheel effectively because the infrastructure is sick. It's not, okay. Yeah, it's sick.
All right. That's the Nigerian News Direct this morning. Chamberlain.
Got newspaper next. Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, Baker over fake news, hate speech. And then quite a host of writers here. Sponsoring fake news against me won't help Atiku. Obi, that is ascribed to Tinubu. Tinubu trying to avoid scrutiny over $460,000 ascribed to Atiku. Look within for fake INEC statement on Tinubu. LP tells APC. Shatima's insult on Obi, breach of peace accord. LP campaign. Catholic bishops seek issues-based campaigns. Hate speech, greatest danger to unity, stability of Nigeria, ACF, says Governor Otom's apology over anti-Fulani comments a relief. My statistics, unsettling opposition, ascribed to Obi. So we'll move on from there since you've had the word or two about the similar scenario in some of the other dailies. But look at this one. Banks, consumer loans decline 17% as CBN tightens money supply. Interest rates trending higher. Customers are now resisting loans. This is ascribed to bankers. And then you also see CBN saying that they're going to protect Nigerians without bank accounts. So concerning this currency redesign. So what is your impression about this going on in this business circle here?
Well, Chamber Lady, it's just a worse situation, making a bad situation worse. That's exactly what is happening right now. I think the monetary policy managers are really in a fix right now because you don't know, whatever you do wouldn't seem to give you the kind of results that you look for, because we allowed this to fester for a very long time. I'm talking about the exchange rate issue and the rest. So whatever happens on that area, actually impacts on every other thing that we do, because we are not producing. We are actually importing, we are actually consuming. So with that, it affects everything that you do in the economy. But beyond that, I see, the more tightening of liquidity, as having more or less negative impact right now, because if you don't get loans, banks can't give more loans. And I would just wonder how many banks will actually give you loan right now, major loans right now to do whatever. Or you trying to even take loan because it doesn't make sense, because the value of Naira is actually not making sense. But not having that, what it means is this: not getting loans, it means that you can't produce. So it's making a bad situation worse. We are already import dependent, having negative impact on our currency, on our value of Naira, and then you are now worsening the situation by not, giving loan to the economy to produce. Manufacturers need to borrow, need to get money from banks to be able to produce, and when they produce, then these goods to be available locally. It means that we now depend on it means that the prices will now be lower than it is now, and then you begin to address the issue of forex or whatever. But
in all of the things that you said this morning, you just talked about a network of activities in all of these things. You can't just handle one and leave the other.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I keep advocating the fact that we need the monetary policy managers, the CBN, and the fiscal policy managers, the government, the presidency or the executive arm of government, to be working in tandem. Because you can't just do one without the other.
Let's just expect that they will do that, because even the vice president talked about that, sometime earlier.
Not to say that I wasn't aware. I want to do Naira redesigning, the Naira reissue, and then the arm of government, the executive arm of government is saying, the finance minister is saying, I wasn't aware.
As far as I'm concerned, it's just one government. Dr. Marcel Mbamalu, publisher, Prime Business Africa, thank you so much for your perspectives this morning.
Thank you, Ayo.
Appreciate your time.
Good to be here.
When we return, we'll begin by taking a look at the issues for the The build-up to the general elections is still something of concern to many, and we have two gentlemen this morning. We hope the third will join us as we explore some of the issues on the plate. But right here in the studio, we have Oluwaseun Faleye, who is a member of the APC and as well as a legal practitioner. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I don't know, I believe we still have Bashola Kuti, who is a member of the PDP. He joins us virtually from the UK. Thanks for joining us this morning. Okay. All right. I believe we'll still get him shortly. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We see you. Hopefully you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome. Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Let me begin with you, Mr. Faleye. Well, one of the issues, well, two of you, but let me begin with you, Mr. Faleye. There's been this allegation making the rounds since I think about last week and the upper week. All shades of electoral violence, you know, in spite of all of the peace accords that have been signed. You know what happened last week in Maiduguri, as well as the attack on INEC facilities in 2 states, in the southwest of Nigeria, and all of that. It would seem like these are what some have called breaches of the Electoral Act, and definitely has its way of threatening the 2023 elections. What would you say to that?
I agree with you. Those are breaches, and I believe that the law should take its course. The law enforcement agencies must rise up to begin to tackle and address these issues, because for us on our own platform, we believe that the process should be fair, should be transparent, should be rancor-free, so that we are then allowed to discuss the issues at stake to Nigerians. Certainly, nobody and no one, certainly not the principal candidate for APC, will condone any sort of electoral thuggery and violence, and we really discourage it and we urge the law to take its course.
Well, on the one hand is the fact that the peace accords are signed, but there are those who have questioned whether or not it drills down to the people in the grassroots at the various local government areas, the ward levels, the supporters of your party, for instance. The peace accord is signed at the top, but the communication or conversation around it doesn't really get to the grassroots.
I mean, leadership is very important in this sort of matter, and the signature of that peace accord is relevant for stakeholders to understand that the leaders do not condone that. And of course, I do agree with you, then the effective communication must be had and continue to be had, just to let members know that these are issue-based campaign. This is an issue-based election. And despite that breaches, I think both principals or all the principals involved in the main election should continue to urge their supporters to remain calm and focus on the issues.
How does your party drill down that communication of the signing? It was your party signed.
Yes.
Peace accord. How do you percolate that conversation or communication down to the grassroots?
I mean, it's effective, like I said, effective communication by the main candidate, all of the stakeholders in the party. I'm not sure that there's any candidate sitting or seeking electoral mandates that will encourage its supporters to go, and instigate violence. I think it's that communication from the federal level to the state level to the local level and to the ward level that is important. And I believe that that conversation and those communications are being had.
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Kuti the same question. Well, you've heard all of the things that's going on, the attack in the Maiduguri, the attack on INEC facilities and all of that. And there are those who are wondering whether or not the parties are taking seriously the fact that this is supposed to be an issue-based campaign and consequently peaceful and not so much violence and rancor making the rounds.
Yes, it's also quite interesting to note that these incidents have actually taken place in APC states. And then, we say that the parties do not want violence, but have you heard anybody condemn the incidents? In Kaduna, did you hear El Rufai condemn? Did you hear Bola Tinubu himself, the candidate of the APC, condemn the incident in Kaduna or in Maiduguri where you have Zulu? Did you hear him come out to condemn the attack on Atiku's convoy? The answer is no. The problem with politicians is that when it's election season, they want to win by all means. They may not tell their supporters to go out and attack other candidates, but the point is that their body language suggests that they have absolutely no problem with it happening to the PDP. Peter Obi was in a PDP state just a few days ago, and you didn't hear anybody attack anybody or PDP supporters clash with Labour Party supporters. The problem with APC is that they say one thing and they do another thing, and I think it's quite unfortunate, really, that in this time and space that we still have this kind of incidents, convoys getting attacked. I had a friend that was in the Atiku convoy in Maiduguri, and he confirmed to me immediately after the incident that the bus was attacked. In fact, people had glass in their arms and in their face, and I think it's just unacceptable. I think also you don't hear the president condemning it and reinstating the fact that he wants this to be a peaceful election. So, it's going to be a free-for-all at the end of the day because people are going to feel they need to protect themselves. And, this is not the kind of situation we need right now.
But then there is also the fact that, Mr. Faleye is here to hold the brief for his own party. But then it is only natural for politicians, as you said, to throw blames as well. It's the fault of the opposition and all of that. But your party, following the attack on the Atiku convoy, blamed straight away the APC without, was any investigation conducted to find out whether or not such a thing happened by the APC members?
You do know that even though it's an APC state, that there are PDP people in that state who are also, in the space. So they must have got some sort of credible information from people on the ground as to, the attacks that took place. I think there were videos circulating showing, keke napeps and motorcycles that were parked, deliberately or alleged to be parked deliberately to forestall the campaign taking place. I think that you also heard the body language of the police saying that no attack took place, even though there was video evidence that such had happened. So you see, when you have this kind of situation where people are not speaking truth to power, or saying what they see has happened, or the police could have said, "Oh, we're not sure, we're going to investigate," but up till now, which is probably about a week, we haven't heard anything.
On that, I can very quickly tell you that the IG has come out at a press conference. I think it was even at the State House that he made that comment and said, "Look, what the statement that came from the police in Maiduguri may not be completely correct. However, they have set up a panel to investigate exactly what happened, and they'll get back to us on that one." But let me
I heard the IG say that, but I'm not talking about what the IG said. You see, the problem with this government is that there's so much indiscipline. Somebody will say one thing. The person who made that statement to say that there was no attack, was he reprimanded? We don't know. It's been a week now. Like I'm saying, I still haven't heard any reports. It doesn't take a month to investigate something that happened, a fracas that happened. You could just go there, make some inquiries.
The reason I made that comment to you, Mr. Kuti, is that you said you hadn't heard anything, but you didn't quote the fact that IG had made that comment.
I haven't heard the police come out to say that
the IG is the police. Isn't that so?
And that there was an attack.
Isn't that?
We could start from there.
Isn't the IG police enough?
We have confirmed now that there was an attack.
Mr. Kuti, can you hear me?
We're starting an investigation to find out who did it.
Mr. Kuti, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sorry.
Isn't the IGP police enough to make that statement?
He didn't come out fair enough to say that, yes, they were going to investigate. But my point is still that we still don't know if there was an attack or not from the side of the police.
Okay.
They haven't admitted there was an attack, and they haven't said to us, "Oh, we found the culprits," or "We're looking for the culprit." We haven't had an update, is what I'm saying. Okay. And it doesn't take a week to investigate something very simple like this. It's not a murder case or anything like that. It's just a plain attack. There were videos circulated. Intelligent gathering, you can tell what had happened. But I believe and there's nobody that can change my mind that it was obviously a planned attack. People just don't wake up don't forget that the convoy also had policemen in the convoy. So people don't just wake up and attack a convoy without thinking about the repercussions.
Okay.
I don't think that it's nice for the polity at the moment.
Okay. All right. Mr. Fala, you want to respond to him?
I mean, there's nothing more to say than for us to continuously urge supporters to be peaceful and to engage on issues. Are
you agreeing with him that members of the APC?
No. I was going to say that it's easy for opposition to throw blames and all of that, but we know that PDP presidential candidates and even the Labour presidential candidate have been to various APC states, and we haven't heard of any other attack. So to blame the APC simpliciter about this sort of violence is being disingenuous. But I think the message to pass to Nigerians and to the electorate is, let us eschew violence, let us look at issues and then debate on those issues rather than getting violent about this.
Well, talking about issues, part of the things that your own candidate has also promised, if you had to go to the substance of the issues, is that, you know, talking about their plans to take on insecurity among a number of other things. And so one is wondering, there are many people who will be wondering exactly how, you know, that is going to be done. I see a comment, you know, by a former member of the House of Representatives, Dakuku Peter Side, saying, look, these manifestos are not going to manifest because they are just words. Whether it's your party or the other party, as far as it's concerned, they are just words. What is the plan? How are you going to make sure that your manifesto manifests? That is what Nigerians would like to know.
Yes, I agree with you that the how is what Nigerians are interested in, and that is what we put in that document. I think that if you look at the policy document of APC and other policy documents, you will see that it's much more detailed. It contains the how. Yes, people will say, oh, these are words, but that's where it starts from. Then you put action behind those words. In terms of security, we've said first and foremost that we will seek to increase the personnel of the Nigerian security forces, either military, air force, and all of that, because we feel that they are, you know, given the number of population and the number of personnel that we have, it's really below the threshold that is required. So that's really key, and that in itself is a job creation, and as a job creation angle to it. So that's one element. Of course, the other element is to look at these key issues and continue the investment that the current government has undertaken in providing the sort of equipment, the sort of gadgets and logistic support that they require to give them the edge over terrorists or banditry, as it were. Basically, also to look at the welfare of the security officers and ensure that it's of high priority, and those things would add to the specific action plan that the government would do. Beyond that is to also look at the economic activities that can stimulate this sort of environment that will bring about low security challenges and issues and all of that. So I believe that with what is contained in the manifesto of the APC, we've got enough impetus in there to really tackle our
The question remains how. The government, for instance, just a second, the government is dealing with very low revenue right now.
Yes.
And you're talking about increasing the capacity of police personnel. While the ones that we have, we're not taking adequate enough care of them. The welfare is questionable. Their living conditions, their working conditions are highly questionable. And your government, the APC government at the center, as at this moment, hasn't been able to deal with that. So why should people believe that the next APC government will be able to wave a magic wand?
I think we need to decide what we want as a people. If we believe that security is important to our economic prosperity, then we must spend to get the sort of security that we require. And that's what we're saying. So if security is the paramount indices for economic prosperity, then we must invest in that security. So it's not a question of why do you want to spend this money? It's a question of, it's very imperative for us to spend that money, for us to bolster our security and continually improve our security conditions and apparatus to get the sort of environment we need to thrive economically.
Well, you still haven't answered the question of revenue, but I'll come back to you. Let me quickly, before I go to Jimmerlin, let me quickly ask Mr. Kuti the same question, especially the plan of your party, the PDP, around security. Exactly how, not just what will be done, but how will it be done, given the prevailing conditions that we have now? How will the government of the PDP, if elected, deal with the issue of security or a lack of it in the various ways, shades, and forms that it manifests itself all over the nation?
Thank you. I think I agree with you that we have a serious revenue problem, and it's going to be difficult to increase the workforce, whether it be the police or the military, because we are basically struggling to pay salaries at the moment. But also, I think it's probably worth pointing out that, the first problem that we have, I think one of the biggest challenges is that the people who are actually fighting insurgency are not trained to fight insurgency. So essentially, we have the military fighting insurgency in the Northeast and all across the country. But we have a police counter-terrorism unit that's doing nothing. So I think our candidate has been very clear about, that his focus will be to increase the number of policemen that we have in Nigeria, so that we can have, a more secure environment. But also, our candidate has mentioned that it makes sense to, decentralize the police force and, do this in conjunction with the National Assembly. And in terms of revenue, I think, our plan is very clear. Our candidate has said that he wants to look to increase our revenue base as a nation in order to be able to pay for some of these things. So essentially look at other sectors and bring in, investments into those sectors so that we can generate more revenue from things like agric, from the MSMEs. Despite the fact that it's the largest contributor to GDP, we don't actually see the revenue coming out from it. So I think that it wouldn't be something that we can do overnight, but I think that, with a solid economic plan, I think we can push through and get more revenues into the country to be able to pay for some of these items in our manifesto.
A lot of issues need to be unpacked in all that you have said, especially concerning decentralizing the police. But we'll come to you because we have another guest in Abuja who needs to weigh in. Chamberlain, go ahead.
Oh, yes, indeed, but we have to apologize. We couldn't actually hear anything of what the PDP representative did say, so in case Catch may just speak on a different tangent entirely. Well, yes, it is Catch Ononuju, who is here with us in the studios in Lagos. He is a special advisor to Peter Obi on public affairs. That's the Labour Party candidate. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Before you talk about the manifesto, we'll start off with the quest to ensure we have peaceful elections. We've seen rancorous brickbats just going back and forth between political parties, and that, to say the least, is not healthy in any way whatsoever, to the extent that the president has spoken about it, the IGP has cautioned, the NSA has cautioned. So it's up to the political parties now to also play their part. How is your party handling that?
Well, you could see we are very disturbed about it. When Mr. Tinubu and Shetima emerged, we knew their history with violence. But we were surprised when we now saw the violence visited at a rally in Kaduna, also now repeating itself in Maiduguri. We are very worried. We are also aware that the APC supporters in Lagos have used violence repeatedly during elections. So I believe we shouldn't give this just lip service. We should take this front and center.
How do you mean repeatedly? Because we heard the APC representative in Lagos say Labour Party presidential candidate has been able to visit states that are governed by APC leadership, and they've been able to carry out their campaigns.
He's visited no more states. I'm specific about Mr. Shetima and the records of Bola Tinubu through elections in Lagos State. That's what I'm telling you, okay? You saw what happened also in Osun State when, after the governorship election, supporters of the APC went and burned shops. for traders they suspected voted for Jackson. Now, we think this is dangerous. The arbitraries who are being raised in Lagos, what are they being raised for? So we need to start now to make sure elections are peaceful, because that's the only thing that threatens the election. If we see violence, we already have been seeing on television, on social media, some people threatening that if anybody comes out, they will kill in Borno State. I think what the police should have done is whoever made those videos, because they didn't hide their face, have them invited. And as you caution them, other people will know that visiting violence on peaceful agitators in politics is against the law.
In order to identify where this challenge seems to be springing up, can your party actually absolve itself of culpability in this regard? Because remember, several people did accuse your party of stoking violence on the social media platforms, which they say culminated, may have spilled over in some areas.
No. What you have, Labour Party supporters are vehement, emotional crusaders. Now, these are supporters that were on the street before Mr. P.K.O.B. was now appointed to provide a face for their struggles. These are not normal politicians. These are Nigerian youths. And Nigerian youths are not known to be violent. When they were protesting 2 years ago, when this proper revolution took shape, the government tried to violently suppress them. But the government was not able to. And so you've now seen those people who have been used to being suppressed violently by the APC government. They have never reacted. They have never shown their own violence. These are the same youths we're talking about.
No, was that really APC government or miscreants?
It was the APC government that shot at youths. It is the government. If the army and the police are under you and they use little force on peaceful marching civilians, the government bears the brunt. The government bears the blame. It is the APC government that has not been able to control trigger-happy people. And what we're saying is the same youths that are now leading the organic movement for the Labour Party are the same ones that the government have been very used to suppressing violently. So our own supporters have suffered more in the hands of government than any other group of people. And that's why we're saying we seek to build a new Nigeria that will be inclusive, including the rights of citizens not to be molested and violated by government, as it was the case.
So how do you come to that kind of conclusion that your supporters suffer in the hands of government? Because different states have different parties who lead them. So are you accusing those
We are
states?
on record to enjoy the greatest followership of the youths. The Labour Party is a party that the youths have given their trust to. So when we talk, we will always remember how the youth suffer in the hands of present-day government.
All parties have youth supporting them massively as well.
All parties do not have the organic movement that the youths are driving, and the youths said that they have tested Buhari's government, they have tested the PDP's game, as they see two of them like two Siamese twins. And that's why the youths are following the Labour Party. That's what differentiates the Labour Party from the legacy parties. We are with the youths, and they seek a new Nigeria. And we are saying that we are very, very, very full of evidences that government have been violent against Nigerian youth.
Well, Mr. Cash did accuse the APC government of fomenting violence on Nigerian youths, he says. We do have some response, but we'd like to get Mr. Falaya to quickly speak to that because we still need to talk about their plans and programs. So, Mr. Falaya, what do you say to his direct accusation against the APC?
Thank you. I think they are unfounded, and that's just it. Because I don't understand where he got that from. Historically, Lagos has been
was by the APC government.
Historically, Lagos has been the bastion of free and fair election without violence. Lagos is where all the states look up to as to the conduct of elections and, electoral stakeholders. So Ashwaju has been at the forefront of campaigning for peaceful elections, and I really don't see where he's getting his idea from. Like we said, whilst we can trade blames as to how and why this has happened, I think it's important that we focus on the issues and we begin to talk on our plans for Nigerians, basically, rather than trading blames on what is happening and what is not happening.
Yes, we will, as a matter of fact. But, Mr. Kach, we also do have the Chief Press Secretary to Osun State Governor, Ismail Lumikwedan, who says, well, you were making unfounded allegation that, on the contrary, it was the PDP supporters who went on rampage on Sunday, July 17, destroying government properties and attacking government officials in Osun State concerning what happened with that election. And so he says you were not correct when you say
it is on record. I was there. And after that attack, the governor-elect, Governor Jackson Adeleke, went to visit the shops, the Igbo shops, and thanked them on the BBC Igbo service, and even also told them how much he would do to ameliorate their pains now that their shops were burnt. It was burnt on a Monday after the weekend election. It is there, it is captured, it's all over the place. So the APC has this record of visiting violence on people. When we saw that violence at the rally in Kaduna, we were worried. When it repeated itself in Meduguri, we now told ourselves we need to protect our people from the old roving gang that goes to kill voters in Ago Palace Way, at places like Ilasamaja, Oshodi, where MC Olomo holds way, where actually due to the election.
Is that Osun State?
This is, I'm talking about Lagos State, another APC game. The Osun State one happened, which was captured even by the BBC in those shops.
So where did this violence happen in Osun State?
It happened at the market area where the Igbos sell. The governor-elect later went to that place, later told them about the crisis on BBC, thanked them for their efforts that he will see to their pains.
Any name of the area?
Of course, it's known. Google it, you'll see it there.
All right, well, the PDP person will respond to it as well much later. But concerning your party's program about the economy, lots of people keep saying, look, they've heard your principal talk about how he will transform the country from what? Consumption to production.
To production.
They think it's rather being verbose. In fact, they specifically want to know, for instance, if you say you want to manufacture a product, maybe you could tell us which one. They need specifics.
He has talked about agriculture.
What exactly
Listen,
to manufacture?
He has talked about agriculture. And his plans on agriculture is historical.
Yep.
He says every bank will be a shareholder in the Agricultural Development Bank. And that bank will look at the lands all over the north as its own crude oil. Now, if you're talking about promises, look at the APC. All the promises that they promised when Buhari was coming in, which among them has happened? None.
Well, in fairness to the government, this particular sector, the agri sector, we've seen the AFDB.
I'm not talking about agri, I'm talking about promises. You're going to ask me about what we said.
Yeah, you
on
said
the agri sector, what I will ask you,
yeah.
I asked somebody yesterday, if Buhari claims there is rice everywhere, why is price of rice going up?
Well, before you get to that, you mentioned the agri sector.
Yes.
That he wants to do something in that sector.
Yes.
What is he going to do that is different from the programs that are currently being executed in the country? More so,
yes.
the recent ones that the AFDB is partnering. In fact, it's a private sector-led initiative, private sector-driven initiative with states and SAPC zones, as they are called. And there are massive opportunities and investments in that regard. So what will your principal be doing that can better that?
My principal has told Nigerians that our manifesto is being fine-tuned. When it comes out, you will see everything holistically, and all the questions you're asking, you will see them there captured. But in regards to trust, the way for you to calculate the future is to study the past. These legacy parties, Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu, told Nigerians in 2015 that Buhari will transform the economy. He will end Boko Haram in 6 months. Right now, it is 7 months to Buhari's end of tenure. The APC is promising Nigerians again they will end Boko Haram in 6 months when they have 7 months. Why not they just continue and do it in these remaining 7 months? So what I'm trying to say is, don't buy their rhetorics. These people are masters of rhetorics. Everything they promised us when they were taking Buhari along, what has materialized? Look at security, for instance. Today, we have over 7 million IDPs, yet we're not involved in a war.
We will talk about the economy in a moment, but Mr. Kuti is also online. And Mr. Kuti, could you go ahead and, I know you have quite a number of things on your chest concerning what Dr. Kach has spoken about. Go ahead, please.
I think, one of the things that I always try and remind people is that, we need somebody who has the experience. Many of the people who are vying for office today do not actually have any experience of what the presidency is like. I think right now the only person that does, in the field is Atiku Abubakar. He has been close enough to understand that it isn't enough to just make promises, but in order to be able to deliver those promises, there's certain things that have to be done. I think that, in all fairness to all the other candidates, I think that he's the most qualified and the most prepared for governance. I think also that his policies also reflect, the fact that he's had, a taste of what being president is like when he was VP in between 1999 and 2007. I think that when people say that, I do agree that the APC has failed. I think that their records speak for itself. But I think that you cannot, discountenance the fact that when the PDP was in government, our lives were better. And that, for me, that is the most important thing. I don't want anybody to come and give me big promises about what they're going to do, because you and I will agree that it will take at least 5 to 7 or 8 years to even get Nigeria back to where we were in 2015, except somebody comes up with some real genius plan. I think that it's going to be a difficult, and honestly, I pity whoever is going to be president in 2023. But I know that, if anybody can do this job, it will be our candidate, because he's the most prepared to lead. And he shows that in his plans. When he talks about the economy, he talks about experiences. The good thing about having done a job before, whether you've done it excellently well or even you've had failures along the way, is that because you're not just speaking from a hypothetical perspective, you actually understand what you are talking about. You have the experience. You've tried things that haven't worked so well. You've tried things that work so well. So all you need to do is basically bring that back, put it in the times that we're in, and then try and push forward. I think our candidate is best suited to do that. I don't agree that anybody made promises on behalf of Buhari. I think even if people came and said Buhari would do X, Y, Z, they expected him to do better than he's doing today. I think that also people should remember that Atiku Abubakar did not go to the APC to support Buhari. Atiku Abubakar went to the APC to become president. So as far as I'm concerned, whatever anybody said about Buhari at the time was correct, thinking that Buhari would do well, and he's failed. And Atiku Abubakar was one of the first people to admit that he had failed. So I think the Labour Party needs to move away from all this blame game and, some people brought somebody against Jonathan and everybody is bitter in the country, because this is one of our greatest problems, this disunity that people are continuing to harp on. Yes, we've had a government that's not done so well. So yes, we are going to an elections. Let us tell Nigerians, and I always say this to everybody, that the common man doesn't even understand all the GDP growth. And the shoemaker just wants to know how he's going to be able to feed his family, how his kids are going to be able to go to school. The market woman doesn't care about, how many bridges you are building. She's only interested in how she's going to be able to feed her family. And this is what we should be communicating to Nigerians, from our political parties, to show them what their lives will look like when our candidates are in office.
All right. So, Mr. Faleye, pardon me, Mr. Kuti, let me bring in Mr. Faleye of the APC on this one. I mean, you heard both parties speak about security, how they think that your party cannot dissociate itself from the current policies, and no matter how lofty your principles manifesto may be, they will say that it is the same party. So, and then they highlight security, how security and the economy. So could you speak directly to that? So would it be wrong if they say, look, we've seen what your party has done before. How is this going to be any different because it's still the same party?
I think that Nigerians need to be careful. I'm worried that a leading candidate that is looking to be the president of Nigeria as at 2 months to the election or thereabout still hasn't come up with his plan or his plan for the country. And it just shows that they have no plan. And speaking to Labour Party, that are still fine-tuning their manifesto. So let's leave that, because let them continue to grapple with ideas and how they want to govern Nigeria. But importantly, what we've put forward in terms of economic plan and security plan, I believe will take Nigeria to the sort of country that we want. One of our greatest challenges, of course, importation. And there's no better importer of goods into Nigeria than the Labour candidate, the Labour presidential candidate. And then when you talk to Nigerians about building a manufacturing economy, I wonder how he's going to do that, because he has no experience about that. All he does is import. So specifically, Ashwaju has said that we transform Nigeria based gradually to an export-led country, and that basically is what will germinate some form of economic activities and growth that will see a lot of manufacturing businesses springing up, and of course our agri-productivity enhanced to bring up our economic profile. So that's important. When we talk about security, we need to be careful the sort of conversations we have. We've always, from our end, said let's engage vigorously when it comes to security. We know where we were pre-2015, where even in Abuja, the president of the Federal Republic could not come out of the villa to hold any public function, and we know where we are now. Security in any country will always be dynamic, will always be fluid. There will always be security challenges. What is important is that government should and will always tackle those challenges. Everywhere in the world, the main focus and discourse of discussion is about security, cost of living, and environmental issues, and that's what government is dealing with, and that's what we will deal with. Our document contains specific as to how we will deal with these issues, from education to healthcare to power to oil and gas. I don't see that in any of these candidates' plan beyond the rhetorics, and that's why we believe that Nigerians will buy into our action plan and vote Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu 2023.
Well, how do you respond to what he says about, for instance, this government prides itself with the lofty programs in the agri sector, the Anchor Boroughs program, different schemes that different states have come up with in the area, particularly on rice production. But if you look at the price of rice today, from 45,918 naira, and we know it used to be in the region of 12, 13, 14,000 naira, while about 8, 9 years ago. So what would you tell consumers about that specifically?
The reality is that the economic and financial situation 9, 10 years ago is different from what it is now. And that's the reality. And that's what I'm talking about. Every part of the world, we're talking about rising cost of living. And so what government has done is to ensure that at least there is supply, and that supply is what has mitigated that cost to what it is now. So it's really funny when people say, I was buying this 10 years ago at so price. The reality is that the financial landscape has changed every part of the world, and we will deal with it, and the government will continue to deal with that to provide opportunities for people to be able to earn sustainable living.
So do we then tell, or do we expect the politicians or your principal to tell Nigerians that, look, if I'm elected or when I'm elected, whichever one, when the prices of these products go up in other countries, it will go up in Nigeria? Because what they tell us, what they campaign with, all the parties, is that we will make your lives better. And they translate it as saying, of course, the prices will come lower. So when it's lower, it makes their lives better. So will their narrative then change, acknowledging that, look, if it goes up in those other areas, we are not immune, so it will go up? Narratives like that.
I think we have to be candid to Nigerians. Government will seek to give opportunities to Nigerians, but it is important that we know that we're living in a globally connected world where events and supply chain issues will affect everything and everywhere. So basically, we will see how these things pan out. What is important is government is providing the opportunities for Nigerians to produce what it will eat, to give us food security and enhance the living standards of Nigeria by also, of course, increasing our agri productivity and ensuring that farmers earn more income to sustain themselves and their families.
Okay, so Dr. Kach, he suggests that there appears to be some sort of confusion in the Labour Party about your manifesto. Up till date, if you don't show Nigerians what the direction is, your plans and program, it smacks of perhaps what he suggested might be some sort of inexperience, because how is it that a copy of your manifesto came out some other day and then the party says, no, that is not it, we're coming up with the party manifesto?
Yes, we are fine-tuning. That's one. Two,
until now.
We already have our manifesto, but we are also aware of plagiarism. We know these parties, they like to copy things like this. When we say things, they will do things. Just like you've seen us now introduce smart campaigning in Edo, how we got from Urumi to Auchi back to Benin. We are careful. The first thing we've done is to establish trust. The most important tool in leadership is trust. The people, who do you trust? If the three candidates were banks, which bank would you put your money in? So we have shown Peter Obi to be the presidential candidate Nigerians do trust.
So did somebody leak the manifesto at the time?
No, not. We have the manifesto being fine-tuned, but we are aware that there are copies in the wild, and that's why my principal said, until he releases it, whatever you get in the wild, it's not his.
So is the one that is going to be released going to be manifestly different from the one that was out there?
I have not seen the one you have seen. So people could have seen different versions of different things, but the one my principal will introduce to the world will be the authentic manifesto. So there is nothing big about manifesto. Manifesto.
So why are you afraid of plagiarism then?
No, that's not about being afraid. We are doing things in new ways. We have established...
By releasing it later than all the other parties?
The manifesto is deeds. Deeds. And so far, the crowd do trust my principle, that anything Peter Obi says, he will do. That's why I asked you, the manifesto that Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu sold to Nigerians in 2015, that Buhari will do this, Buhari will do that. What happened? You want to give them a second chance to make a first impression. No, we will show you the manifesto in print. But as for the manifesto in spirit, the way you see my principle is the way the manifesto will be carried out.
He also
is a man that says and does.
He accused him of doing a lot of importation, and so what is it that he wants to manufacture in this country at the moment?
Already, I read Oshomole saying everything in the next superstore are imported. I know I buy my beer from next superstore, and the beers are not imported beer, they're made in Nigeria. At least they have not talked about how my principal has brought jobs to bear. Every company he invests in, he insists in local manufacturing in Anambra State. What about the massive job that's been created by such activities? He's talking about my man having interest in selling. He is an economic player. Where there is a need, he will work to fill the need. Let the government provide the logistics that will force local manufacturing.
I know they say where a man's heart is, there will his treasure be, because you went straight to beer.
Because
why is it just beer?
I'm a football-loving fan.
You're talking about beer in the morning.
And the best thing to play with, of course I know. Why do I say beer? My principal is also one of the biggest brewers in this country. He is a massive employer of labor through his brewery activities across the country. Nobody in the APC or PDP employs as much people in the beverage industry like my principal. You know that. This is an employer of internal manufacturing.
Well, you know that even if your party declares beer for all, there are many who don't drink, who don't take
Well,
part.
you could also take other things that we do. The waters that were being sold in next superstores, those waters and locally made water. There's a lot of things. People who manufacture shoes, they bring them there. A lot of Nigerian produce are sold there. Next was simply a hypermarket where people bring different goods. These things don't belong to P2B. He creates a hypermarket and people bring in their goods. This is what they don't understand.
All right, we need to let it go at this stage. But Mr. Kuti, I don't know, he mentioned he's a Premier League fan, so talks about pubs. Do pubs open in the morning in England, Mr. Kuti?
I don't think so. And I think also that I never thought in my life that I heard Dr. Kachi sounding like Lai Mohammed. That's what happens when you support a candidate who is confused and doesn't know where to go. I think it's a disgrace that the Labour Party doesn't even have a manifesto at this stage of the election, of the campaigns. I mean, essentially what they're doing is waiting for our manifestos to be criticized so that they can then build on that. Like, waiting for exam papers to be marked so that they can then write their own exam. I think it's very disingenuous. I think that it's not fair to the Nigerian people. In one breath, they say the manifesto is not ready. In another breath, they've been telling us for the last couple of months that you'll be out in a couple of days. I think that, you know, again, I said it, that it's a lack of integrity on Peter Obi's part. If he doesn't want to use a manifesto, he should come out and tell Nigerians, I'm just going to walk to the answer. If he has a manifesto, I think he has to release the manifesto to Nigerians and stop these games. And nobody is going to copy what the Labour Party has done because we have already put our manifestos out there. So what Dr. Kachi is saying is not untenable because our manifestos are we going to now go and rewrite them? So I think that it's important also to note that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is a player in many sectors. He's a player. He has a water factory. He's got like a fast food chain. He's got like, an agric business. He's the only one out of these three that actually has businesses that the types of business Nigeria needs to thrive. And that also speaks to the fact that, as a business person, he understands how the economy will thrive because he wants other people to also come in that sector and play their role. I think that we need to put our eye on that, and no other candidate that's running, none of the top candidates actually have any businesses that we can hold on to. And I think it's quite interesting that they want to build businesses that they've never owned, and they expect that the economy will move by owning beer factories and supermarkets, and that is what will champion the growth, and banks where you keep states' money. I think that, for me, it's clear that there is only one candidate in this election that Nigerians can trust.
And candidates is in banks, insurance, computers.
Okay, well, I think Ayo's got a question for you. So
yes,
just a minute before you respond. Ayo, go ahead, please.
Mr. Nonoju, there's something you said that I find very interesting. When you said that you call them legacy parties, they could plagiarize or copy from your candidate's manifesto. That is why they had to rework it, the fine-tuning. We know that the Labour Party had initially released or published some kind of manifesto earlier, but withdrew it to, as you said, fine-tune. How do we know it is not your party now sitting down with the manifesto of the PDP and the APC to rework and recoin words, and as you said, fine-tune as your own agenda?
Well, thank you. You have said already that you found something in the wild. And I have told you, whatever you see in the wild, it's a document in the wild. Our manifesto to the first gentleman who said we're not ready is ready. We are fine-tuning. Now, we do not want a manifesto from Labour Party to be like the same manifestos you get from the PDP or APC, which are just basic rhetorics, and then when they are faced with challenges, they wouldn't do these things. Peter Obi, the trust Nigerians have in him, will also back the promises he will make in regards to the reduction to paper. And he doesn't just want to just say things, make promises that he cannot keep, like the regular legacy party's way of copying all the great promises, copying from Abiola, and then vomiting it there. And they do not have any inkling. Look at all of them talked about security.
All right.
Where is the security? We will give you a manifesto that we will implement. Nigerians are very interested in what Labour will do, and we will give that to them.
Dr. Kachin Oniju is a special advisor to Peter Obi, that's the Labour Party candidate on public affairs. We've also had Mr. Baba Sola Kuti, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party, joining us virtually, as well as Oluwaseun Falaye, member of the APC and also a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. All right, welcome back. Well, that is Ife Adebayo, who is the special advisor to the Vice President on Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're focusing on young people now because this program, which you get to talk about, is going to, I mean, clearly from the registration, from the Independent National Electoral Commission, they have a huge representation. 18 to 34. If they stick to it, will have a major say in terms of who runs this country in the next 4 years. And then we've seen the youth unemployment rate in the country. It keeps going up. A little over 19%, or is it 19.61% as of last year or this year? So that figure needs to go down, because if you put them in terms of numbers, it will be millions of Nigerians. We know that the office of the VP, they're working on this Jubilee program, Jubilee internship program. So, and then there was an activity last week. So just go ahead and talk to us about this program and how it's going to address that huge challenge of youth unemployment.
Yeah, thanks. And I think the Jubilee Fellows program was conceived in a conversation of the Vice President with the UNDP, the United Nations Development Program. And was looking to come up with innovative ways to deal with the issues of unemployment, like you mentioned, but also underemployment, and then also to look at employability. So because the three of them go hand in hand. So on one hand, you have young graduates who are unable to get employment. On the other hand, you have organizations who claim that the people on the market and the labor market are simply unemployable. So how do you ensure that you're able to come up with a solution that addresses that addresses both issues? So the idea was to set up the Nigeria Jubilee Fellows Program, and Mr. Vice President and the President had a conversation about it, and it was agreed that working with the UNDP, the federal government was going to put down some money, and the UNDP will then go ahead and raise additional funding for this. So in August last year, Mr. President actually officially launched the program. And then the portal was open for applicants. And what this program does is, if you graduated between 2017 and now, you're able to apply to get on the program post-NYSC. It's a post-NYSC employment program. But it is a learning while you earn program, where as an employer, you get fellows posted to you who work with you. You don't have to pay for their services, because this is covered by the federal government and the UNDP and other funders and supporters, which I will speak on later. And then for 12 months, you're able to learn, but you're also earning something to be able to gain the necessary skills that an employer will need without putting the burden of that on the employers. And this is one of the ways in which the federal government, in line with other programs of the government to fight unemployment, is looking to address these issues of unemployment.
So is that going to directly speak to work experience? Because when you mentioned those three areas, underemployment, unemployment, and then ensuring that those who then also need to be employable. So is this particular focus going to address all three of them in the same breath, or you have different strategies to address all three key points?
So the federal government has a lot of programs, but this specific program is one of so many other programs that are ongoing. And in this particular program, for all beneficiaries, we'll look to address the three. while you're on the program, you're going to be linked to mentors. So one of the things we've done over the last 1 year while planning for the onboarding of the fellows was engaging with institutions, engaging with international organizations, engaging with small businesses. And this process has been led by the United Nations Development Program. And why are we doing that? Because we want to ensure that we're not just placing people in offices where they're going to buy granola or going to buy water for their senior colleagues, but where they're actually learning and they're actually gaining experience while on the job. But beyond that, where they're also linked to fellows. One of the core things that will happen within this 12 months is also that there's going to be a learning stream. So all fellows will have specific learning outcomes that they must conclude prior to the completion of their fellowship in 12 months.
So is there, how do you, I know this may speak a little bit in terms of measurement and feedback, but on a larger scale, how do you measure the success or where you have challenges with this program? Is there a pool where if employers want certain persons, they go to that pool and say, well, if they've been through this program, we expect that they might have picked up the requisite skill that we may require, and so we go to that pool?
Yes, and if you listen to the Vice President on Friday, when he spoke about this program, he had referenced what the President had said in August about the fact that it is important that organizations take maximum advantage, and also for the fellows themselves. The Vice President mentioned on Friday that as a fellow, it is important that you perform so well during your period of stay that even for organizations that are not going to retain you, there will be the potential for you to be recommended to other places and for you to be engaged in other places. We have partners like Sterling Bank, for example, who mentioned the MD was at the onboarding event on Friday, and he had mentioned that, look, for us as a bank, we're taking on at least 1,000 fellows. And what is critical for us as a bank is that they're not just going to be fellows within the institution, within Sterling Bank, but they're going to pass through our own critical systems, through our own learning systems. They're going to go through our own specialized training and specialized modules, which we will even make available to other fellows. So within these 12 months, you're not just within the bank, you're not just within the organization that you've been posted to, but you're also learning as you go on.
So I see sometimes when people say, well, they've applied, they don't get any feedback, how do they know if they've been chosen? And then some of those who are there are asking, where do we get some sort of the payments for what's been done? How are you managing all that?
So the process was, the application was open last year. After the application closed, went through a series of reviews, and then the fellows were then made to write tests online. So based on the results of the tests, the first set of 5,000 fellows to be onboarded are currently in the process of being onboarded. I think we received over 100,000 applications from fellows, about 118,000. We received about 5,600 applications from organizations. Interestingly, most of the organizations that applied were micro and small businesses. About 58% of those who applied were small businesses. About 18% thereabout were micro businesses. The large companies that applied, I think, were just about 6.5%, which shows you that the core of the economy is actually within the smaller micro business space, and they're the ones that are actually showing a lot more interest in onboarding these fellows.
Okay, let me bring in my colleague, Ayo, just before we go to break. Ayo, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chamberlain. I just want to quickly ask you, there are those who would backdate some of the programs that the federal government of Nigeria, irrespective of which administration is in power, have initiated. The ones that immediately come to mind are some of the from the previous administration, the Jonathan government. They had the UWIN program, the Showpea program, the Agropreneurs program, and so some will be wondering, why is it that every successive government drops what the previous government is doing, irrespective of whether or not it is good enough or not, and they just pick up on their own just to score some, I don't know, is it because you don't want to be identified with what the previous government did, or you think that this one is better? Consequently, you just gave it a new name, or you discarded the previous ones altogether?
Thanks. So I think government is a continuum, right? And so when you look at programs and projects of previous administrations, and you look at how the APC government in particular has fared, you find that this is the government that has largely continued to carry on previous projects of previous organizations. But for the ones you mentioned specifically, I think the realities are kind of different. So this government came in 2015 at a time when the prices of oil were greatly reduced and the country was going into an inevitable recession. And then immediately after we came out of the recession, we had the issues with COVID-19 and the global impact of that. So what you find is the government had to respond to the issues at the time. And that was why at the time, the government set up the social investments program. You had the Empower, which recruited about 500,000 persons and got them into jobs. And then that has even been increased to 1 million today and has been institutionalized within the Federal Ministry of Government. So what you're finding is that beyond just interventions, the government is beginning to find ways to institutionalize some of these things so that irrespective of governments that come in, we're able to carry on, even if it's a different name, we're able to carry on the programs that can positively impact on Nigerians. But to also touch on that, you find that for a program like the Jubilee Fellows program, being anchored by the UNDP, irrespective of the government that comes in, this is a 5-year program that the UNDP itself is raising funding for. So it is independent of the impact of a change of guard at the seat of power.
Okay.
What you will also find is the innovative way in which the funding is being raised for this. We had organizations like Visa that are supporting the program. We had Sterling Bank saying they're going to raise some money to support the program. We have General Electric supporting the program. We also have the European Union, which has committed about
well, Mr. Adebayo, we'll come back to you in a bit. Well, Mr. Adebayo, just one quick one from me before I return you to Chamberlain. Now, this is a paid internship, I believe. That's what the information says.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now,
yes, it is.
We're also aware, because it's for graduate, it's a graduate students program. The NYSC is also a paid service of sorts. Is there a nexus between the two? Is this NYSC and then this or NYSC? Exactly how does it work, and how does it help the graduate to transit into the rest of his life?
So this is a post-NYSC intervention program. The difference is that while the NYSC is compulsory, this is a government intervention program scheduled to run for 5 years, supported by the United Nations Development Program and the European Union as at today, but also still bringing on a lot of other partners as the program progresses.
But how does it help the fellow to transit into the rest of his life? That's the question.
So, like I had explained earlier, as a fellow, you get the opportunities to be on the program for a 12-month period. You get the opportunity to engage within the workspace, but importantly, earn some money while you do that. You get the necessary work tools to be able to support you within the 12 months, and you're also able to access a certain you're also able to access mentorship within the organizations and even outside the organization. But beyond that, as a fellow, you're also able to join a network of fellows where you're able to exchange ideas, you're able to have conversations, you're able to learn from each other, and you're able to learn within the organizations that you're working.
I see people asking that, they want to know, for instance, when people take the tests, do they get the immediate results and know whether they qualify or they don't qualify, since you get a lot of people who participate, to make it even easier for those who are administering the process? How does that work?
Yes, so those who have written the tests and have been confirmed to have passed the test have been informed. You'll be informed when you've passed. You'll be informed when you're shortlisted. You'll be informed when you're matched to an organization. The organization is also informed that this person has been matched to you, and then you go to the organization. The organization can choose to accept or reject a fellow when the fellow arrives based on their own internal processes.
Okay, so it's not that as soon as they take the test, they get the results immediately. They know when to move on or not. So they have to wait until they are contacted that they've succeeded or otherwise.
Yes, so they have to wait until they're contacted to inform them whether they've succeeded or not.
So do you inform everybody, or only those who qualify, who make it?
Everybody is informed.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So do you get scenarios where companies reject people who are actually qualified, and when that happens, how do you take it off from there?
Interestingly, we've not had a lot of that. Oh, okay. It's almost not happened. But if that does happen, the fellow will be rematched to another organization. We currently have about 5,600 organizations across the country that have shown an interest.
So that means, of course, a lot more organizations will be welcome to come into this program.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
So the application for host organizations is still open and ongoing.
So what about those who want to participate in the program themselves?
The fellows.
The fellows.
No, the application for fellows have closed.
So the first batch, how many batches do you plan to have over what time?
So there will be batches of about 5,000 each every quarter. So there will be a total of 20,000 every year that will run for 5 years.
All right. So we'll hope that at the end of the day, it's something that I think whichever government comes in, it will be a good initiative for them to pick up on and ensure that they keep addressing the youth unemployment challenge and employability, as a matter of fact, which is key, which organizations talk about almost all the time.
Yeah, and I think very critical. The Vice President was very specific about the importance of ensuring the private sector owns this program. So, for example, the fund that is running the program is managed outside of government by the United Nations Development Program. The money is raised outside of government by the United Nations Development Program. But even more critical is that there is a private sector board that manages the dispensation and the management of this fund, such that it is independent of the bureaucratic processes of government.
All right. So thank you very much indeed, and all the best. That is Ife Adebayo, the Special Advisor to the President on Entrepreneurship.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that is it today on the program. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I am Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
Well, we acknowledge all of your messages coming in. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. We have to thank you very much. Please keep them coming in. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your day.